You can't have a problem with male infant circumcision because infant circumcision is just a legitimate medical procedure. Let's talk about that. This attitude that male infant circumcision is just a legitimate medical procedure betrays a very interesting worldview, a very interesting view of the medical community. In terms of politics, there was a guy named Fukuyama who, sometime after the fall of the Berlin Wall and the end of the Soviet Union, wrote about what he called the end of history. Basically, we'd have, we were at the end of history. We would live in societies run by liberal, democratic governments, and there might be minor tweaks here and there, but that was pretty much it. As a side note, I believe he's gone completely off his rocker. He's gone nuts since the election of Donald Trump. I guess that threw a bit of a monkey wrench into his theory. Anyway, this is the theory. This end of history theory is what this infant circumcision is a legitimate medical procedure is toward the medical community, because what it says is that in terms of medicine, we are at the end of history. For whatever problems the medical field had in the past, whatever unethical practices or things of that nature, and that's not really explicitly part of what I'm saying, that's sort of the subtext, but it's sort of saying that we are at the end of history. Modern medicine now is forging ahead in the realm of pure science and pure humanitarianism, and they're really just, it's not even possible for them to do wrong. This view flies in the face of fallible human nature and completely ignores the horrendous behavior and the horrendous human rights violations of the medical community in the past century, being committed up until quite recently. I mean, we should have right here in the comments, let's see if we can try to come up with some of the unethical behaviors of the American medical community in the past century. You could argue bloodletting. That existed sort of prior to modern medical knowledge, and if you thought it was beneficial, that might be able to conform to standards of ethics. But I'm talking about things like, I mean, male infant circumcision is the quintessential example, but insulin shock therapy for victims of mental illness, electroshock therapy for homosexuals, castration, state-level organized castration of people deemed defectives in the United States in the past century. The euthanasia of those deemed unfit to live. I mean, let's think about it. You can get into the more minute things. The culture of routine tonsillectomy, adenoidectomy, appendectomy, hysterectomies that were often applied to women. Oh, my word, frontal lobotomy. Has the American medical community ever apologized for turning Rosemary Kennedy into a vegetable? They would take perfectly healthy, normal people. In Rosemary Kennedy's case, she was a bit of a wild child. They took her and dug ice picks behind her eyes and scrambled the frontal lobes of her brain with a coat hanger. The list goes on and on. The medical community's support for female circumcision. We have quotes from doctors from the late 50s who said that, I'm paraphrasing, all of the reasons for conducting male infant circumcision are generally recommended for female circumcision. Dr. Benjamin, I'll have to look that up. I would even argue, I mean, removal of removal of wisdom teeth. I mean, I don't know what it is. Maybe the provincial nature of dentistry and maxillofacial surgery sort of let that one go escaped. I mean, these largely maxillofacial surgeons charge thousands of dollars to totally unnecessarily remove the wisdom teeth of adolescent children. That has always struck me as being really weird. And if there's no disease process in place, I don't see how that is acceptable. I still have my wisdom teeth for what it's worth, and I put them to good use. I like to eat coarse whole grain food, and the molars are evolved to chew grain, cereal grains, just like the foreskin is evolved to serve many different purposes, including sexual self-discovery, masturbation, lubrication, penetration, sexual pleasure of contributing most of the erogenous sensation that contributes to sexual pleasure, and of a different quality than what is available through the nerves remaining in the glans penis, both the lubrication and the gliding skin sheath. Anyway, it's just pretty unbelievable that these things are totally ignored. Rather ironically, the head of the 2012 American Academy of Pediatrics Circumcision Task Force, Douglas Diekema, in the early 2000s, I believe 2004, was involved in the catastrophe in which he did castrate a young girl under the auspices, a developmentally disabled girl, under the auspices that she would be easier to take care of. Boy, doesn't that sound eerily similar to this easier to keep clean, maintenance-free, that is claimed of male infant circumcision, and was claimed for female circumcision. This claim that infant circumcision is just a legitimate medical procedure is just totally false. It elevates the medical community almost to being gods. I believe it honestly qualifies as a logical fallacy of the category, I believe, improper appeal to authority, essentially, is what it is. I mean, Dr. Mengele was just conducting legitimate medical procedures. He was a medical doctor, you filthy peasants. That's all he was doing. He was just performing legitimate medical procedures. He was piloting twin, separation surgeries and typhus vaccines, right? Dr. Mengele was just a doctor conducting legitimate medical procedures. Tell me what you think. In the comment sections, again, do what I started. Come up with some of these crass, horrendous human rights violations that the medical community has been involved in. Let's say the past 150 years, sort of after empiricism and modern notions of things like germ theory started to take hold, to where it's more comparable to what's going on today. Anyway, tell me what you think. Infant circumcision is a totally illegitimate, non-medical child rape. Take care. Bye-bye.